Under the hot morning sun whose rays are still soft, I step into a vast rice field. The soil is still wet after the rice harvest a few days ago. This rice field is like a playground that never gets boring for me, a place where I can feel peace and pleasure at the same time. Every step I take presses the still wet muddy soil, creating small footprints that sink for a moment before disappearing. Here, I am looking for snails to feed my pet ducks. However, for me, it is more than just looking for food for the ducks. I walk slowly, my eyes focused on the muddy surface of the soil that often hides the snails I am looking for. Every now and then I stop, tilting my body to look closer to see if there is a small movement around the wild plants growing among the puddles. This post-harvest rice field is full of life. The snails seem to be hidden in the cracks in the soil, moving slowly as I approach. It feels fun to find them one by one, as if I am adventuring in a small world full of surprises. The vast rice field atmosphere with the sound of trickling water in the irrigation channels added to the tranquility. Even though the heat was starting to sting, I didn't feel tired. In fact, my body felt more alive, and the sweat that soaked my body only added to my enthusiasm. Every time I bent down to pick up a snail that was visible, I felt like I was exercising, my muscles working, and my body moving actively. The sweat dripping from my temples reminded me of how fresh the air of this countryside was, even though it felt hot. Suddenly, my steps stopped when I saw a quick movement among the remaining straw that had turned yellow. Carefully, I approached, and in an instant I managed to grab a fairly large snail. A small success that made me smile with satisfaction. This activity is indeed simple, but it has its own satisfaction that is difficult for me to explain. Looking for snails in the rice fields, with fresh air and moist soil, makes me feel connected to the surrounding nature. There is a sense of peace that is hard to find anywhere else. As I continued my search, my steps became lighter. Every new snail discovery brought its own happiness. It was as if I was not only looking for duck food, but also finding happiness in every second. With that, I realized that sometimes happiness does not come from big things, but from the simple happiness that is around us, which is often overlooked. Besides hunting snails, there is one more thing that makes me feel more at home here, in the middle of the vast expanse of rice fields. The calm and peaceful atmosphere, far from the hustle and bustle of the outside world, makes me feel like I am in a different world, in a place that seems untouched by time. The gentle wind, bringing freshness from the edge of the rice field that looks green with newly harvested rice plants, gives a refreshing cold touch to my skin. It feels like every breath I take feels deeper, more relieved, and more alive. I walked along the edge of the vast rice fields, my eyes roaming the scenery filled with natural beauty. In the distance, there were small hills that looked like natural painters, with different shades of green depending on the depth of the grass. The sound of trickling water flowing in the irrigation channels added to the calming atmosphere, almost like a natural song that greeted my ears softly. Along the path I passed, there were wildflowers blooming, with bright colors that seemed to enliven the atmosphere. The wind that continued to blow not only brought fresh air, but also brought the scent of wet soil that reminded me of the simplicity and beauty of nature. I enjoyed every breath of the wind. It felt calming, as if it was caressing my body, erasing all the fatigue that existed. In an atmosphere like this, I could let go of all burdens and just focus on my steps, on the snails I met, and on the sense of peace that enveloped me. I walked along the edge of the vast rice fields, my eyes roaming the scenery filled with natural beauty. In the distance, there were small hills that looked like natural painters, with different shades of green depending on the depth of the grass. The sound of trickling water flowing in the irrigation channels added to the calming atmosphere, almost like a natural song that greeted my ears softly. Along the path I passed, there were wildflowers blooming, with bright colors that seemed to enliven the atmosphere. The wind that continued to blow not only brought fresh air, but also brought the scent of wet soil that reminded me of the simplicity and beauty of nature. I enjoyed every breath of the wind. It felt calming, as if it was caressing my body, erasing all the fatigue that existed. In an atmosphere like this, I could let go of all burdens and just focus on my steps, on the snails I met, and on the sense of peace that enveloped me. Sometimes, I stop for a moment, sit on the edge of the rice field, just to enjoy this tranquility more deeply. I close my eyes, feel the wind blowing softly, and listen to the sounds of nature flowing so harmoniously. Here, in the middle of the vast rice fields, I feel my mind and body become more relaxed, as if all the worries and fatigue of everyday life just evaporate. Without having to do anything, just being in this place, I already feel calm. The vast scenery around me gives a sense of relief that cannot be explained in words. Every step I take in this rice field seems to bring me closer to peace. In fact, when I collect the snails, there is a kind of simple happiness that is present, which makes me even more excited. This is not just about finding food for the ducks, but more about enjoying the moment here, enjoying every second spent in the midst of nature that is so soothing to the soul. Almost every day I do this activity, walking along the narrow roads that stretch between the vast rice fields. My steps are never the same. Often I move from one rice field to another, because in my place, the expanse of rice fields seems endless. Every new step brings a new adventure, although my goal remains the same, looking for snails. Snails hidden behind puddles of rice field water or among the wild grass that grows abundantly. There are so many rice fields that I can explore, that every day I feel like I have a new world to explore. Although my main goal was to hunt snails, there was something else that made me feel at home moving from one place to another. Each rice field has its own uniqueness. Each stretch of land, every curve of the waterlogged land brings a different atmosphere. There are rice fields that feel more open, with a wide blue sky, a stronger wind blowing, bringing fresh air that seems to erase all fatigue. In other places, I find a more closed atmosphere, blocked by trees growing on the edge, creating a cool shadow that covers the land. However, despite the different atmospheres, there is one thing in common that makes me feel so comfortable. All these places are still very natural. There is no pollution, no hustle and bustle of city noise. There are only the sounds of nature that can be heard clearly, the gurgling of water flowing in the irrigation channels, the chirping of birds flying low over the rice fields, and the rustling of the wind carrying the fresh scent of wet soil. All of that comes together in a pleasant harmony, giving me a peace that I rarely find anywhere else. In every rice field I visited, I felt like I was part of nature itself. No matter how far I walked or moved from one location to another, the beauty and freshness that I encountered always brought peace to my heart. The atmosphere was so natural and pure that it made my body feel light, as if all the worries and anxieties that usually haunted me just evaporated. In the first rice field, I enjoyed the more open air, with the wind blowing hard and the blue sky stretching without limits. In the next rice field, I felt a deeper sense of calm, with wild plants growing denser and the shade of the trees adding to the coolness. Even so, each of these rice fields gave the same freshness, giving a sense of calm that seemed to envelop every breath I took. And so, every day, I explore different rice fields, enjoying each difference and similarity, but always feeling connected to the priceless nature. The snails I encounter are just an excuse to keep walking, but the beauty and peace that comes with every step is what makes this journey never boring. It feels like, even though I move from one rice field to another, I always feel like I have returned home to the most comfortable and peaceful place.